Good morning, Crystal from the Rain Dance Ranch. Yesterday was day 5. I made a video at the end of the day, but it got lost. Okay, so what I got done yesterday, I put some seeds in here to do several things. Most important, cover crop, because you always want something growing in your soil because of the root exudates and the rhizomatic behaviors and mycelia and all that stuff. You got to keep all that stuff going. So when you don't have something planted, or when you're not growing something that you really want, you need to do a cover crop of some sort. Just have something growing. And some things are better than others. And there's classes you can take. But I just had to work with what I had. I didn't have a lot. The only seeds that I purchased for cover crop purposes were black-eyed peas, which I do have here. If you've been following me, I've got black-eyed peas like planted around the bricks because plants like to grow along edges. And I just kind of want to see how they respond over there. And then I've got a smattering of them here, and I want to see how they respond under the bark. And then if they grow, then they'll be right there, and I can work them into the soil. So I'm kind of liking the idea of having little spots of black-eyed peas growing everywhere. So as I'm working in the garden, I can grab some and work them into the soil. Versus like having, right now that's just kind of what I got to do because I am experimenting too. This is a big experiment. So this is kind of an early planting for some of these seeds, and then some of the seeds should be fine this time of year, and some of the seeds are super old. So it's just a matter of putting seeds down, and something is going to eventually pop up, most likely, hopefully. And I'll see what makes it without cover. Like when I started this, I was planning on covering everything, and I did like the first couple nights because it was still a little cold. But it's really warmed up, and I really do want to test out what I can grow with the least amount of inputs, for one thing. Like those onions over in the onion meadow, and these alliums are amazing. But bulbs in general, I'm really liking bulbs. And I'm thinking that root crops are probably going to be good for this area because they're most likely going to be the ones that are going to be safest from insect ravaging and other animals. But we'll see, because I am wide open here. I have no protection on my garden. And I made a video showing all the seed packets and talking about what I planted over there. So I'll leave a link down in the description to that video. And then over here, I finally got rid of those tar patties, and luckily they were sitting on a board, and I'm just going to leave the board there for now. And I started trenching to lay in logs all the way along this side of the fence, and I had to pull out some of these grassy growths, and so now I'm gonna do another line, and then I'm gonna try to actually construct the beginnings of the hugel mound. And what I'm thinking I'm gonna do is maybe chop up some of the tumbleweeds a little bit, and just kind of lay them on top. And then I have all these branches, which I actually had started laying over here, Do I have any close by? I thought I put some like right here. Oh, they're down there. I put them down there. Because, yeah, that was a while back when I thought I was going to start the hugel mound on the other side. But I'm thinking I should start the hugel mound on this side because it'll be easier to tend. And plus the pressure, the leaning pressure is going in this direction. So I'm like, you know what, I better start the mound on this side. So it's a little bit of a to-do. I gotta come in and fork, and then I dig, and then I gotta fork these, I gotta fork because the soil is pretty clay. It's actually a soft clay, which is nice. But I got all this growth here, and I'm just gonna take it out. And there's plenty of growth on the edges that will do its exudiate thing and all that stuff down there. So I'm not too worried about knocking stuff out. I know most gardeners aren't worried about that, but I've been really focused on this whole idea of the exudiates and the mycelium, using, and I've actually used mycorrhizae and bacterial inoculants and stuff with great success, and I would love to get some products to use in lieu of fertilizers. But anyways, so then I'm taking the dirt from the trench and making a well around the trees, which is why I decided to do the trench, because I was considering just laying the logs on the ground and just start piling stuff up and not worrying about it, which, who doesn't love that idea, right? But nope. I got a reason to do it, and I think this is the proper way to do hugel mounds, is you want to dig down a little bit to start your first layer of logs. So that's what I'm doing, and I'll probably eventually come through, or I don't know what I'm going to do exactly, but I'm thinking I might come through and bury more logs in front of this, but not so deep. Or maybe I'll do another row of logs like next year or sooner, who knows, right in front of this one as it gets built up. Because I'm assuming the mound is eventually going to be close to the top of this fence. And the reason why I'm doing this along this fence is because this stuff is not put in properly. And I've already had a bunch of fences fall since I bought the place. And then when I bought the place, there was a huge area of fencing that had just fallen because it wasn't done properly. And let's see, we got some movement here, but yeah, they just stuck the logs in the ground without anything, and it just wasn't really done right. But I think this is a good way to sort of save the fence. And I don't know. It's going to take me a while to get the hugel mound to go up that high. And it might encourage more degradation. So it's a big experiment. And I got to get a full-time job so I can have money in case it falls down and I need to put a new fence up right away. And if my truck breaks down, I still got to have a full-time job, darn it. I got a paid-off place and all this knowledge, and I still got to go to work. Anyways, that's okay. So we got the well started, and then I'm going to be putting like a trench coming over to this well because there's going to be a well around this tree too. And so that process has begun. And I might do a presentation about tumbleweeds, but they're not really something that you really want, but if you end up with them, it's probably the best thing for this situation, because when I got here, my whole property was just covered in tumbleweeds. Like this area, I have not pulled any tumbleweeds, and there's only a few loose ones in here right now. I mean, just the whole property just covered like this. And I managed to get them all out from around these areas and into the courtyard, but I still have some edges to do. There was a bunch of tumbleweeds here I just got out. And see here, these are some loose ones. But there was a little smattering of tumbleweeds growing on this carpet thing. But the carpet did a pretty good job. Well, there was one in here and then a bunch along the edges. But yeah, I mean, it was just covered in tumbleweeds back here. And there's a bunch of loose ones laying around, and then I threw a bunch of them in my big creek thing, the canyon, my creek canyon creek, that's what we call it. So, the nice thing about tumbleweeds is that they were keeping the soil healthy with their roots. Right? And they were protecting the ground. So I left them here on purpose, and I left this area covered in tumbleweeds all winter, knowing that it would at least provide some protection. And so I had instant protection here. And then again, like I said, they kind of act like a cover crop. And I noticed that wherever the tumbleweeds are, there's a lot of growth underneath. Now, I don't know if the growth underneath is more tumbleweeds, but the areas that were left uncovered, there's not much growth. I mean, there is right here, although I have kind of moved stuff around, so. Well, like right here, you don't see any of those grassy things. Not that there aren't any. And I don't know. I mean, I hope they're not baby tumbleweeds. Let's see, does that show up? I have no idea what that is. Is it just more grass? I got these two kinds of grasses. This grass right here that seems to stay pretty short, and it wound up and curled. And then this grass is a different kind that tends to stay more straight, and they're just all mixed together, these two different grasses. This is probably the other, this probably isn't. Here's a better example. Yeah. So here we've got the typical, it's like a little mounding green grass, and then this grass that just curls up. And I don't know what that's going to do as the season changes. But one of the things I was planning on doing, or that I consider doing, is when I take some of these grasses out, they pull right out with the roots. And I was thinking about replanting them where I want them around the garden to encourage the root exudate activity and to inoculate the area with whatever bacteria it's got going on. And that's why I left this onion or whatever this is here, because it's probably creating root exudates, and I left this one little grass here. So when I get back into town, I'm going to be planting some stuff actually around here just to kind of see, like, is stuff gonna thrive? Because it's right here next to the root exudates from this little teeny piece of grass. Like, will that even make a difference? Will I notice something? So this whole idea of certain plants taking water or taking nutrients from other plants, I mean, I don't want to say that that's not possible at all, but I hear so many people repeating that, and it's just not true. I mean, it's just not true. Like, when your plants are better on, they love to be crowded, most plants. I mean, yes, I'm sure there's exceptions to the rule. And it depends on what you want. Like, if with sunflowers, if you could grow like big sunflowers, and if you want them to be big, then you want to plant them 12 to 14 inches apart or something like that. Maybe 8 inches. But those same sunflowers, maybe you don't want them to be huge. And if you plant them 3 inches apart, they'll come up knee high or something, you know, and then they're just like nice cut flowers. So it all depends on what you want, really. But yeah, I would really like to do a little more research on this whole idea of how plants are taking the resources from other plants. You know, that people say that all the time. Like, where is the difference between having plenty of growth, adding to the life, versus taking from the life all for itself? You know, the one selfish plant, the weed, taking all the nutrients. And you know what? Maybe that's true if you're utilizing... okay, we got a hungry cat. They're going to be disappointed because I'm out of canned food. Let's see. Hey, baby, where are you? Hey, Mamba. There's Mamba. That's my Black Panther. He keeps all the mice away. And I used to have a lot of birds, and I found a few birds in the house. So I think the birds stopped coming around because of the cats. So that's kind of not good. Anyways, I think that the problem with the taking of the nutrients with the weeds and the crops, like, that's why you want to get the weeds out so they don't take all the nutrients, is when you're doing things in the beast system way of basically making things worse in the end using fertilizer. Now, I'm not saying that using fertilizer is going to kill your garden, but if that's, when you look at farmers, I just listened to this really great interview on Matt Power's channel, and these farmers were farming on like 7,000 acres, and they stopped using fertilizer by increasing the life in the soil, essentially. And they were inoculating their soil with soils from the natural area. Actually, it wasn't that they were inoculating the soil, they were inoculating their seeds. And they would do kind of like what you do with biochar, where you put it, or you make like a compost tea kind of thing. And they have a special recipe, and you can watch their videos for $500, and I'm sure it's totally worth $500, especially if you got 7,000 acres. And I do want to take that class, I just don't have the $500 right now. So, and actually it's not really a class, it's just access to their course. And then I think they are available to consult with. So, that kind of thing. But they did it. They were basically killing the soil, doing things with just, clearing everything out and planting their soy and corn or whatever they were growing, and, their unicrops, big, huge swaths of one plant. And then they said all they did was spray for bugs and put down fertilizers and the whole time. So man thinks that he's coming up with some solution to make things easier, but nature, the moral of the story is nature makes it easier. So go with nature. And you'll have much better long-term results with less effort. All right. Crystal from the Rain Dance Ranch. Thanks for watching. When it rains, go out and dance.